The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
How can you not be romantic about Joe Flacco? Bengals win Thursday Night Football.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast.
The Bengals have gotten back into things in the AFC North, not letting the Steelers run away from it. Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers having an absolute spectacle of a time on Thursday Night Football, James. And Joe Flacco playing excellent football, dare I say, an elite Joe Flacco game. Joe Flacco is elite. Is that the answer to the question after all these years? We just had to wait until he was older than 40 and playing for the Bengals. Welcome back, by the way, to the Everydayers and all of you who make us your first listen. This will be a fun one, James.
Yeah. What's not fun about a team that had their backs against the wall, hadn't scored a first half touchdown in 4 games, was outscored 79-9 coming into this, and the game turns in the final 5 minutes of the first half. They own that time. And so for them to get a 33-31 win, one, I think it's season saving. Doesn't mean that they're going to make the most of it moving forward, but it gives them new life. 2-0 in the division. All of the things that we talked about the other day are true. Significant development for the Cincinnati Bengals team to win, for Joe Flacco to play the way he did, for Jamar Chase to continue to play the way he has. By the way, double-digit catches, 100-plus yards with 3 different quarterbacks already. It's week 7. That dude is just insane. Obviously, team records for receptions, targets, and there's a bunch of other things we could talk about with Jamar that we can do. But the story is Joe Flacco to me. I mean, for Joe Flacco to go 31-47 against that defensive front, against that team, and to give the Bengals the advantage and give them the lead, and then have to still lead them back downfield with 2 minutes to go and do it with ease. I'm stealing this from Dan Hoare. Joe Calm just delivers because he was calm, cool, collected, got the Bengals down there so quickly that they had to chill. They had to calm the waters, and Evan McPherson delivered the win. It's just huge win for the Bengals to not just keep just stay interesting, but to keep all of the sights, all of the things that they wanted to accomplish this season. It felt like it went out the door week 2. And tonight was a reminder. Joe Flacco has been a reminder that don't close the door on this Bengals team just yet.
And what resiliency from this team tonight. From 10 down, 20 straight points. The defense throughout the night could hardly get a stop the entire game. But DJ Turner, after giving up a deep ball to DK Metcalf, that's the last I think we heard from DK Metcalf in this game, takes one away from DK Metcalf on the sideline, does DJ Turner. Jordan Battle cleaning up a terrible throw from Aaron Rodgers. It was left way inside that Turner could have also picked off. Turner also had a pass breakout coming off his guy in zone, so Turner continuing his awesome run of play of late, even though he got beat for that one deep ball. And the reason that I bring up the defense that we'll circle back to at some point either today or this week, because there's work to do on that side of the ball, is that they gave the Bengals those shots early. And despite what the defense did in this game overall, DJ Turner taking that ball away from DK Metcalf for one of the best interceptions you'll see this year. One of the most physical plays from DJ Turner, who gives up like 50 pounds, 30 pounds, some amount of crazy weight. Maybe I'm going a little bit too high with the 50, but a lot of weight to DK Metcalf and a lot of height to DK Metcalf to just muscle that thing out. And then Joe Flacco and the Bengals are able to go steal 3 points at the end of the half before they get the ball back. And that's where they get to the 20 straight. They're able to kind of maintain that 2-score lead for a while in the second half until eventually the Steelers take a lead. Like that, those takeaways helped. That got the Bengals back in the game where they had drops early. They had Chase Brown drop a ball with tons of grass in front of him early in this game. They had Andre Yosevich drop a ball that could have potentially gotten close to or been a first down on a third down play. And despite that, despite what they went down with early, and maybe this should have been a sign, because on the very first drive, Joe Flacco converted a 3rd and 14 with an awesome anticipatory pass to T. Higgins. Maybe that should have been a sign for the way the offense was going to go once they found their rhythm. And Flacco did find a rhythm. And Zach Taylor, for all the fire we've put under his seat lately, and I think he remains on a bit of a hot seat, he found a rhythm in this game with Joe Flacco, with the run game. Chase Brown averaging 9.8 yards per carry in this game with 2 explosive runs. What team am I talking about? It was that kind of day for this offense that bounced back from that slow start. And then it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Chase Brown. And heck, even Samaje Perine and Noah Fant and Andre Yosebush, like redeeming themselves for some plays early in some cases, or just otherwise being too much for the Steelers defense to handle.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the Bengals scored on 7 of their final 8 possessions on offense. This is an offense that was just awful. I mean, just awful up until the past 6 quarters. The past 6 quarters, they've been really good. And honestly, the first quarter, so I should take that out, I guess, because the first quarter was bad again. And it was another quarter. You're like, man, they're almost going to go another half without scoring a touchdown. And then the dam broke. And they were able to just keep the pedal on. And Jamar just being so – there aren't many guys with his explosion in NFL history that can turn any play into a touchdown from anywhere on the field, that can also be possession receivers. This dude can be Randy Moss and Wes Welker. Like, he can do all of those things. And that's why, like, Joe Flacco was talking after the game, like, oh, it's just a little out route to Jamar, another out route. And it's so simple, but you don't want to get beat over the top by Jamar. And so that's part of it. His yak was a huge factor in ability to break tackles. T. Higgins put on the Jets. I mean, he got a mushroom. You know, Mario Kart. He catches that ball. He got a mushroom, and it was like a jetpack. He just went into the end zone. I mean, either the Steelers secondary is the slowest secondary in the planet, or T. Higgins hit that jetpack, because that was a heck of a play too. This is just – I don't think you can overstate the significance of this win, because if they had lost, if they don't go down and get that field goal late, and it's 31-30, I promise you all of the negative stuff that was really being said on social media at the start of the game, all of that turns into a full weekend, turns into all the way up into next week, into the Jets game. Even if they beat the Jets, doesn't matter. It's still going to be there, Like, this win gives the Bengals a chance to change the perception of the 2025 Cincinnati Bengals. And there aren't many wins that can do that when you lose 4 straight the way they lost 4 straight. But this one did that, and it gives them a chance to turn things around, which is a huge, huge development for the home team.
And more importantly, it builds confidence, and maybe that's the changing narrative. It gets them back into the division race instead of 5-1 and 2-4, or 2-5. Being the difference between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals. It's now 3-4 Bengals and 4-2 Steelers. Bengals right where they were last year in week 7, 3-4. And feels like last year in some ways when you think about this defense, but just getting back into the thick of things with the upcoming schedule gives them the ability to build on this. And now we've seen that Joe Flacco, he can actually put up incredible numbers with these guys. He's laughing after the game about how good Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are. He's pulling out the Ryan Finley keeper against the Pittsburgh Steelers all these years later, which I think we called in one of our shows on this channel earlier.
I think we
this
joked
week.
about it. Yeah.
I couldn't remember which show it was, but I'm pretty sure it came up.
Maybe it was you and Sands, actually.
It might have been me and Sands. I can't remember. It was a quick week, quick turnaround, a lot going on this week.
What day is it?
But I have no idea. Not a clue. But an awesome win for the Bengals to get right back in to the mix.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast.
The Steelers went in and lost in Cincinnati 33-31 to the Bengals in a shootout. And we're going to break down several elements of this game, from the offense, the defense, the run defense, the pass defense, everything about it. But there was one part of this defense that was assembled this year for a specific reason that needed to come through in this game, and it did not. And that was its defense when it went man coverage against the Bengals passing game, because it very rarely won. And listen, maybe they'll win other ones. Maybe the next time they play the Bengals, it will work. But that, to me, is the big question that these Steelers must answer on defense. Can this secondary hang with the big boys when they want to go man-to-man in coverage? Because that was a big reason why you swapped Jalen Ramsey or Minkah Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey. It's a big reason why you went and got Darius Slay. It's why you've been trying to develop Joey Porter Jr. You wanted to have the cornerback room just to come out and say, we can line man-to-man with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase, with Justin Jefferson, with Jordan Addison, and we can go toe-to-toe with those guys and come out on top. And they'll get us sometimes, but we'll get them back. And in this game, that did not happen nearly enough. Jamar Chase, of course, 16 catches on 23 targets for 161 yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins, 6 of 10 for 96 and a touchdown. They were the entirety of the Bengals offense. And really the Bengals team. The Bengals defense didn't do anything really that spectacularly. They caught 2 interceptions. You know, that one interception shouldn't have been an interception because DK Metcalf's hand was on it while he was out of bounds. I don't know how that got missed. But the first interception, Rodgers just made a bad error there. But what drove the entire Bengals offense was really the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And it was the thing that we said going into this game, the Steelers had to limit. They didn't limit it, and I think that it's because their game plan was around, hey, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter, you're going to take these guys away. You're going to win more often than not against these guys. And you saw early on Joey Porter getting tagged with penalties, so was Jalen Ramsey. I think that they came into this game with an idea of what they wanted to do, and when the Bengals started to win with that, they didn't have a good backup plan because their plan was to cover in man and then try to switch into some zones. But Joe Flacco eats zone alive when he gets the chance. And that ended up being a nightmare scenario for this defense. And I think it poses a problem moving forward because while you will not play teams that have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins type wide receiver combos every week, you will play other teams on your schedule with a really good receiver core. The Packers don't have that next week, but Michael Pittman, if he's healthy with the Colts, could be a problem with the guys they have there. You play the Bengals again in about a month's time in November back in Pittsburgh. Romeo Odunze and DJ Moore and the guys they have with the Bears, the Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameis Williams. There's guys coming, and you got to be prepared. Because if you're not going to be able to win in man coverage against those guys, and that's a big part of what you wanted this defense to be, you got to make some adjustments. You got to switch something up here. Now, again, short week on the road in the division. We know that that's the curse of Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. But to me, this was where Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin needed to have this team better, was that they needed to say, hey, this way that we're running our man coverage, forget about it. We're taking these guys away. I personally think when I look at overtime in my covering the Pittsburgh Steelers, the way that they like to approach teams with multiple receiving threats is they'll let you kind of get some yards here and there with a specific wide receiver, and they'll take away another. And the problem was in this game, they didn't take away the other wide receiver. I think that they had a plan that, like, hey, Jamar Chase will get his, but we're going to make it so that T. Higgins and Iosifas and everybody else won't eat. And if we do that and force them to live through Jamar Chase, eventually they'll make the mistake and we'll get the play. And that was the problem in this game. That never came to fruition. T. Higgins had his way. I mean, even on the Eophas deep ball that Joe Flacco connected on, this Darius Slay. Darius Slay is not a vertical guy. You don't want him running speed, but he was supposed to at least maintain his leverage to just stay in front of the play, and he couldn't do that. And that to me is alarming, because if other teams now see this, as they will when they look at this on tape and they prepare for the Steelers, they're going to go after this too. And a lot of the structure of the blitz makeups of everything the Steelers wanted to do was that they could trust that they could go into man coverage aggressively and win. And some of the times you do have to tip your cap to the other team. Like, for example, the last deep ball to T. Higgins, Jalen Ramsey had great coverage. He pinned him to the sideline. He ran with him step for step. Joe Flacco just threw the perfect ball, and T. Higgins went and found it. Jalen Ramsey, got beat there. That's okay. But there were other instances where they needed to be in better situations. And it's something that harkens back to something that I thought I saw in week 1 that I wasn't sure if it was going to continue to be a thing. And it really hadn't been a thing for about a month. But now I think it's reared its ugly head again. And I think it's that the Steelers secondary is given a lot more liberties to not have traditional coverage leverage in certain situations, because a lot of them are veteran or experienced guys, and they're trying to set up something else. They're trying to set up the mistake. They're trying to, and I noted this against the Jets, where I thought Jalen Ramsey was letting receivers, and I think also against the Seahawks as well, but Jalen Ramsey would let guys get in front of him, and then he played trail technique to try to jump the pass. I think that happened a lot in this game. Now, I have to go back and watch the tape. I don't think that's it, but I think if Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin are going to take this defense forward, and unless they say, hey, you know what, our guys got beat in this game, they won't get beat the next time we do this. Okay, that's betting on your boys. But I think what needs to come out of this is they need to have a different approach to how they're running man defense, especially against teams with playmakers like this on offense, because those other teams will be coming down the line. And to me, that's the biggest question for the Steelers, for Mike Tomlin, for Joey Porter, for Jalen Ramsey, for Terrell Austin, for everybody involved. You have to be able to win those types of matchups when this is a pillar that you're built on. And we'll get to the run defense in a minute too, because that's also a big problem in this. And Cam Hayward had some very strong words about this after the game, and I want to get to that. But to me, a big part of what they wanted to, how they structurally changed the defense. We talked about how this is a Blitzburg defense again. They're bringing the heat. And we got to see their blitz rate for this game. But I thought that they brought plenty of heat, and the ball was getting out quick and going to certain guys. This needed to be a game where you just said, hey, Jalen, I know you want to play off leverage, or you want to play outside leverage and work this here, but we need you to play inside leverage the entire play, jam this guy, give him a hard time, and make Joe Flacco hold on to the ball for 5-6 seconds to give our pass rush time to get home. And I just feel like the Steelers didn't do that enough. And there were a couple times they did it, and they did it well. The field goal that they held them to in the fourth quarter, where Jalen Ramsey broke up that pass in the end zone, that was really good man coverage. That was basically what we're talking about here. Joey Porter had a couple plays like that, but it wasn't enough. And I think that there's a lot of grace given to these guys, and not a lot of grace, a lot of there's expectations that these guys are going to be able to still play at that level where they can be given the luxury to make their own calls, where they're going to back off a guy on a certain play or play up on another play or give outside leverage here because I think I can force this. I think that there might be a time to say, if you're Terrell Austin or Mike Tomlin, saying, hey, guys, we know that you think you can do this, but right now we need you to be able to do this part of the game. That's take away the slant. Like when they were running those slants, the Steelers, I thought needed to be, in man coverage, but when they were in man coverage, people were saying, oh, they're not going to man coverage because they're scared. They were going to man coverage. The problem was they were just getting flat up beat. And that's what you can't allow to happen. You be physical at the start of the play, cut off, take away the inside, force them to live on the outside, and eventually and take with that what it gives you. I think that if the Steelers had done that more, the defense might have had a better day. But that to me could be an Achilles heel moving forward. If other teams see it and the Steelers don't address it. And when I say address it, I mean by like doing these things, saying, hey, we're gonna change how we run these things. We're gonna switch up the way that we go about putting on man coverage and trying to run with guys on the shorter passes and the quicker passes. That's got to be a task. Now, fortunately for the Steelers, they get 10 days rest. They get to, lick their wounds over the weekend and get ready for a big game against the Packers. And the Packers aren't a team with superb wide receiver talent, but they still have good wide receiver talent. So they'll get a chance to kind of get their stuff back together. But to me, this loss could be a sign that comes back to kill them later in the year if they do not figure out better ways to run man coverage when they want to be aggressive, when they want to take away certain guys, and not just getting abused by highly talented receivers. So I think that's a big story out of this game. But another big story is how the run game allowed 108 yards to Chase Brown on 11 carries, the most rushing yards on the season for him, and a big game for a team that was averaging 56 yards on the ground per game going into Thursday night.
In what could have been future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer's final start of his career. What an outing it was.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast.
What a game. I'm going to start it there, but I mean, the main talking point and what we'll spend a ton of time on today is Max Scherzer. For those of you that don't know, post-game, John Schneider was asked, why did he put the ball in his back pocket when he came to take Max Scherzer out of that game? And obviously, John was not going to give a straight answer to that, but I think we can all tell that this is a possibility of being Max Scherzer's final start in his career. What a career it has been, future Hall of Famer, and to go out, if he does, barring that he does get one more start in this playoffs, what an outing it was. A day that you needed Mad Max Scherzer. I think the guy that all Blue Jays fans and all baseball fans everywhere were hoping we would see one last time. And boy, did we ever. We'll get into a lot more as we continue. Braden Owasco, Carter first, as always. Braden 5 Owasco, Carter first too, as well as Locked On Jays on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. You guys have been killing it with the comments, the likes. We leave your guys' opinions on where this team is at, what you were just witness to last night. Because, Carter, let's get right into it. I mean, to be honest with you, growing up, it was Max Scherzer. It was Clayton Kershaw, right? It was these two guys. And I didn't have the highest of hopes going into this game for Max. With how he sort of finished the season, it wasn't great. And it sort of brought a little bit of a tear to my eye watching him leave the mound and still being Max Scherzer. Going out, having this kind of outing, propelling this team to a win after what was a rough, rocky first inning. It's hard to be romantic. It's hard not to be romantic about baseball, right? The money line or Moneyball quote that we all use all the time. But this is one of those moments. It was, it was Trey Savage's amazing playoff start. It was all of these guys having massive moments, and Max Scherzer gets his today. Just man, what a day, and what a day for a Toronto Blue Jays win to even up the series at 2-2.
You're already giving him his farewell, but we hope that Max Scherzer is going to make another start before the year is done. So we're really hoping that that's not his last start. But in the event that it is, again, if the Toronto Blue Jays don't win the series, he's not going to pitch again in the Mariners series. So if you get to the World Series, I think after that, you're probably going to see Max Scherzer start at some point. And who would have thought Max Scherzer is going to turn back the clock at least one more time before he does hang him up? We'll have to see him again if we get into the offseason. I don't know if the Blue Jays bring Max Scherzer back. Can't really see that happening with his age, his want to win with the money. I don't know how that's going to work. That's an offseason conversation. We have Max Scherzer right in front of our faces right now, and I couldn't tell if this was like his Cy Young winning season or if it was just 41-year-old Max Scherzer kind of doing his thing. But unbelievable stuff. This is a guy that hasn't pitched in a Major League Baseball game in 3 weeks. He hasn't pitched since September for the Toronto Blue Jays. So you want a rest versus rust conversation. I think Max Scherzer is going to take all the rest that he can possibly get at this point in his career, because it didn't really seem to matter whatsoever. Really all of his pitches, the changeup moving like crazy. His fastball hit 96 at one point in this game in the early innings. That's completely ridiculous. The curveball was unbelievable. Threw 10 curveballs and all of them got swings. 6 whiffs on the curveball. Ridiculous stuff. The slider looked good as well. Really turning back the clock. And this was some vintage Max Scherzer stuff. And us included, and a lot of people wanted Max Scherzer to start game 4. He hasn't put up good numbers in September. We were both on that pen, so I'm not going to let you kind of go down with the ship. I was right there with you. But yeah, not a very good starts whatsoever in September. There's a reason why he wasn't on the ALDS roster, because there wasn't a lot of faith necessarily in Max Scherzer. But they liked the matchup a lot better with Seattle. And clearly John Schneider knows a thing or two about Max Scherzer, because we all knew that the moment wasn't going to get too big for him. It's just, was he going to have the skill and the pitches and the movement in his pitches to get hitters out? And he definitely did that and some more in this game. What a start from a future Hall of Famer.
What a start. And you know what? The one thing that I was talking to you about, and actually another buddy of mine on the phone before this game, was he asked me, he goes, what do you expect from Max Scherzer start? And we went over that last episode, and I wasn't super high on it. But I said, you know what? If I could see one thing happen, and if you want to call it a great move by a manager that knows what to do, and John Schneider's got a lot of grief. When John Schneider goes out to take Max Scherzer out of that game the first time, I fully believe he wasn't going to pull him. He did that so Max Scherzer could have that reaction, and we could get another look at Mad Max Scherzer. And I think that was all game plan in John Schneider's head. He knew this probably going into this game. If Max Scherzer's having success, I'm going to go out there, at some point, look like I'm pulling him out just so it fires him up again and you get a little bit extra from him. And that's exactly what Max Scherzer gave. I wanted to go on a quote just about that. It was a mind game, apparently. That's what Max says. He even figures himself that John was not pulling him there, that he was coming out there so that Max could have that reaction. And he knows that. I mean, you've seen Max yell at managers before. And Carter, I think something that's going to be brushed over quite a bit in talking about Max Scherzer was the pickoff move. That was a game-changing moment. Cal Raleigh at the plate. He throws over, one out, throws over to first. Vladdy gets the pickoff. They challenge it. They get the call. And then you're facing Cal Raleigh with 2 outs, no runners on, instead of 1 out and a runner on first. The game could have been completely different. So massive move, not only by Scherzer making the pickoff, whoever called it, if it was Kirk or whoever it may have been, and Vladdy for the tag, and knowing that he got him to send it to the video room as well. That's something that's going to get swept under the rug in all of this, but a massive, massive moment in this ballgame.
Well, Max Scherzer is a guy that throughout his career hasn't really cared too much about the runners on base. Like, he hasn't been known as the guy that's going to have that, mischievous pickoff move and get the guy at first. There's more so like just a formality. He's throwing it over when he has the unlimited throws that he would have had to first base throughout predominantly his entire career. But it's clearly something that he's worked on. It came up in a big moment. In a playoff moment, runners on base is very scary. That's how you amount to, a big inning, especially with one swing of the bat. We know how much home runs matter in the playoffs. So yeah, credit to Max Scherzer, where you started to feel like the game might be slipping away from him a little bit. In that moment, that extended his leash a little bit. And like what we were talking about this entire game is like, we were kind of thinking like, hey, when is John Schneider going to pull out Max Scherzer? And me and you kind of both said like, hey, the third time through the order, we probably need to pull Max Scherzer. But yeah, I don't think, even if Max Scherzer wasn't pitching effectively, I don't think there was a way that John Schneider was going to get him off the mound for Rowdy Rosarena. The look in Max Scherzer's eyes when John Schneider, camera pans to John Schneider and Max Scherzer, look in his eyes, like, I actually thought like John Schneider wasn't going to be walking off the field. Like, there might have been a fist fight on that field if John Schneider was going to pull him out of the game. And that would have been a very early yank. So I think I completely agree. Like, Max Scherzer, we've talked a lot about, pulling pitchers early and like what it takes to pull a pitcher and take him out of a game. There was nothing that Max Scherzer was doing on that mound that would have told you that you should have taken him out of the game. And then they roll him out again in the 5th inning. So he gets some outs in the 5th inning. I honestly think he probably could have finished the 5th inning, but it is what it is. Maybe even early pull there. But yeah, credit to Max Scherzer. Crazy things on the mound. The entertainment value's there. Just seeing how mad he was on the quotes that we got after the game. I'll kind of throw it back over to you to go into some of those quotes, but this is definitely one that I'm going to remember for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the quotes that I took down, it's in pretty much just regard to Max, because I mean, that's where this game really lives and dies.
There's one more guy. There's another guy.
For sure. But the injection of energy that he gave to this ball team, right? This is a game that a lot of Blue Jays fans had circled as, oh my God, if we get to here down, this might not go very well. But instead, they turn the tables and flip the tide here. Just on John Schneider, when he went out that first time, he said, I thought he was going to kill me. It's great. That was the quote. He was pumped up. He knew what he was getting into. He said another line, these are the moments we sign and trade guys for. I've been waiting for this since the off season. He's been waiting for a moment that you can see the Max Scherzer that we all grew up watching. And that's exactly what we got here last night. So, yeah, I fully believe I wouldn't have loved to be the manager having to walk out and try to, fire Max Scherzer up or give him a pull. I mean, I'd have tears in my eyes leaving the mound probably just because I'd be so terrified. Him looking at you with those two different colored eyes, yelling your way, like, dude, I'm soiling my pants probably looking at that guy. But yes, just unbelievable. And Carter, the other thing, sort of the other big storyline, obviously we're going to get into Andres Gimenez and the offense in the next segment, some of the defensive plays as well, but it's Max Scherzer. It was an amazing game. We have to talk about it. Luis Castillo. Max Scherzer outpitches a guy that Mariners fans were saying, this guy, you are beating this guy. This guy's going to beat you. And you get outplayed by Max Scherzer in this Toronto Blue Jays offense. We heard a lot about the Mariners fans, right? They're talking about how good their team is. And don't get me wrong, they looked really good in those first two games. But I think me and you, Carter, saw that, and this was something going into this series, that this is the Blue Jays series to lose. If the Blue Jays come out and play like the Blue Jays, they're going to have success. And if the Blue Jays don't do that, then yes, of course, a team's going to take advantage of that. And I think that's what we saw in the first two games of this series. But now we're seeing the Toronto Blue Jays team that we saw during the Yankees series that I think we expected to come into this game. Maybe not with some of these guys, but just seeing the pitching matchup and the bullpen, Carter. We'll get into the offense next segment. But the bullpen itself, Max Scherzer, getting a win when, there wasn't too many people that probably thought that Max Scherzer was going to go out there and give you 5 2/3.
This was kind of like the game one for Toronto Blue Jays fans, where you thought you had the pitching advantage, you had the pitching matchup, not necessarily a must win, but a win that definitely would have mattered a lot. Seattle's 3-1, going into another game in Seattle. And then the Blue Jays have to win 3 in a row. Again, very tough sledding. Now it's 2-2. It's a brand new series. And it wasn't like Max Scherzer barely outpitched Luis Castillo. It was night and day. This was completely different. You would have thought Luis Castillo was the 41-year-old in this game. But the Jays, these were games that happened in April and in May. But this isn't their first rodeo, the Jays hitters with Luis Castillo. There's a lot of matchups throughout the years that these guys have had a lot of experience with Luis Castillo. And we said, or at least I said on the last podcast, Luis Castillo's best years are behind him. It's not that he's a bad pitcher by any means whatsoever, but the velocity has kind of peaked out. He was sitting kind of 94, 95 at times, not that 96, 97 that he threw earlier in his career. Yeah, so credit to Max Scherzer, credit to Luis Castillo just for insane performances. The Mariners, I think there was for at least for the Toronto Blue Jays offense, I'm not going to talk too much about the Mariners pitchers. So I don't think they're doing too much different necessarily, but I think there was a big philosophy change and an approach change with the Toronto Blue Jays hitters and the way they're approaching at bats, which has really showcased why there has been such a big difference in games 1 and 2 compared to games 3 and 4. It wasn't just there's a magical switch that flipped. There was some research, some time put into this, and there has been a new approach that has been working wonders for the Toronto Blue Jays.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
A battle between two teams who are pretty banged up, and whoever can come out on top will be atop of the AFC.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The winner of this game will be the number one team in the AFC record-wise. I mean, the Colts are the last of the one-loss teams. Chargers undefeated in the conference. The Colts undefeated in the conference, both undefeated in their own divisions for now. And this is a big one. Chargers luckily at home for this game, somehow favored for this game, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. But Zach, what's up, man? Got to be a very, very exciting time for you.
Oh yeah, very exciting. I mean, who would have thought the Colts would be at 5-1? Who would have thought you guys would be at your record with the injuries you've gone through as well? So we're both riding highs right now into this game, and hopefully, well, at least on my side, hopefully we continue riding our high, and you guys have to rebound after that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't think when the Chargers, when I saw the schedule that I didn't know if it would be an easy game per se, especially with Jonathan Taylor and the worries I've always had about their run defense. But I didn't think they'd be playing the number one team in the AFC when week 7 rolled around. But Crossover Thursday is presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I know the Chargers injuries have been well, listed, and there's so many of them, so many important players. But the Colts kind of have, on the defensive side of the ball especially, have their own injury issues. And, as the Chargers are on tackles 5 and 6 last week, the Colts are on corners, 7, 8, 9, whatever the case may be. But going into this matchup, Zach, what do you think would you say is the biggest story for the Colts going in?
Yeah, it's just health right now is the biggest thing for the Colts. If I had to give an auxiliary one, it's can the Colts offense keep it up on the road at the dominance they've done at home. But right now, it really is the health. I mean, the Colts are coming into this game, like you mentioned, down 7th, 8th, 9th corners. I mean, we got guys like Jonathan Edwards, Chris Lamons, and Mekhi Blackmon likely to start at corner in this game. And I want Chargers fans listening, heck, even Colts fans listening, to tell me if you've heard those names before I just mentioned, before I mentioned them here. So the Colts cornerback room is in dire straits. They've had a lot of turnover at linebacker as well. They do have Jermaine Pratt and Zaire Franklin now, but they've already cut 2 guys who were linebacker 2 and 3 coming into the year because of their play. And then on the offense side of the ball, it looks like Josh Downs might not be playing this week as well with concussion. So potentially down Josh Downs. Charvarius Ward, the best overall player on our defense, probably doesn't play this week. A couple other guys missing too for the Colts. Their kicker was knocked out for the year 2 weeks ago, and we'll see if that ever comes back to bite them. So maybe it's not as dire as the Chargers, where the Chargers have the CVS receipt of injuries right now, and they're down to, I think I'm going to go try out for the Chargers tackle position after we get off the show here. But, it is pretty banged up team right now. Kind of the state of the NFL usually come week 6, week 7, week 8 is everyone's banged up and you just got to find a way to win despite that.
Yeah, and I mean, to the Chargers' credit, at least last week they were able to do that, right? I mean, they played a bad team, but the injuries are the ultimate equalizer, and it was a close game for that purpose. And I mean, I think for the Chargers, especially with their offensive line, something that was always going to be kind of under the microscope anyways going into the season. Now you lose, your best tackle in Rashawn Slater. Now your all-pro kind of level left tackle over the first 3 weeks. Joe Alt goes down with a high ankle sprain. He did not practice on Wednesday. His status, I would say, is very much in doubt. I would be surprised if Joe Alt or even Trey Pipkins would play. Those are your second and third best tackles for the Chargers. Obviously, the Colts are missing, several cornerbacks, because if Kenny Moore was playing, if Charvarius Ward was playing, that's a different team. Like that, that's not something that is easily as exploitable. But now I think what the story for this game is, at least on that side for each team, is just like, can the Chargers keep Justin Herbert upright long enough to take advantage of that? Because you're right, I had only heard of Mekhi Blackmon from scouting him at USC a couple years ago. Outside of that, I've never heard of those other guys, which I don't think many Colts fans have probably heard of, Austin Deculus, maybe just because he's was in the AFC South, but he was not a starter for a bad Texans offensive line. And then Bobby Hart basically was on the street the last couple of years. They could get Jamari Sawyer back to play probably right tackle. I wouldn't say that's like a huge boost or something that's going to change the trajectory. Right now, it's looking like the Chargers, once again, are going to have a very quick style of offense and really try to game plan around what they're missing. And that's been what it is, which is just a limited offense. Like that, if you want to keep Justin Herbert healthy, you kind of have to run the offense a certain way when you're missing those guys. I'd say the biggest thing here, Zach, is the ability for Khalil Mack to come back. They just activated his window. He's missed 4 games with a dislocated elbow and just kind of a freak injury against his former team in the Raiders. Denzel Perriman, who is a very physical run defender with liabilities and coverage, I'm almost positive he's going to be back this week, full participant in the last 2 practices last week, full participant on Wednesday this week. That will be an impact player for the Chargers, especially getting Jonathan Taylor and a very physical team coming to town. It's not the Khalil Mack impact, though. And for most players, coming back that first week where you activate the window and it's like, okay, we'll get his feet wet, but we're probably not going to play him. You can't guarantee that with Khalil Mack. And I think why that's so important for this matchup is because where have the Chargers been getting killed? On the edge. It's keeping contained. It's not having that super physical edge setter. And like you look at the Commanders, 2 untouched touchdowns rushing on the ground, just running to the left side, getting outside, and nobody's there. And another couple last week where you have big chunk plays. If Khalil Mack can play, not that it fixes the Chargers' run defense, but The last 3 weeks, the Chargers have given up at least 137 yards on the ground, 3 weeks in a row, and 2 of those games were over 160. The kind of common denominator there, Khalil Mack's been gone. So I think that is kind of the one injury hanging over this game where it's like, man, if he could come back, not that the Chargers shut down the Colts rushing attack by any means, but maybe they don't get pummeled by it, and I think that would be huge.
Yeah, no, I think that you're 100% there. That's the most important injury to watch this week because, look, Downs and Ward likely aren't going to play. We don't really have to monitor those. Joe Alt's probably not going to play. We don't have to monitor that, but Khalil Mack will be the big one to watch throughout the week because this Colts rushing attack has killed teams this year. Jonathan Taylor leads the NFL in rushing. Last week alone against the Arizona Cardinals, who were a pretty good run defense coming into that game, the Colts averaged nearly 8 yards per carry running to the left side of the defense behind Quentin Nelson pulling out in front, Tanner Bordellini, the young center, finding his way, Bernhard Ryman, a highly paid left tackle, doing some great things. For all the injuries the Colts have had, their offensive line is very healthy, and Quentin Nelson's playing the best football of his Hall of Fame career right now, which is scary to say. So if you're not going to have Khalil Mack, you got to be prepared for Quentin Nelson leading the way in front of Jonathan Taylor there on that left side. And it could be a lot for your defense. So that, and also the Colts have only allowed 5 sacks through 6 games so far. Daniel Jones has the lowest pressure to sack ratio in the NFL among all quarterbacks. So Khalil Mack not only as the run defender, but just getting some pressure on Daniel Jones. You know, pressure creates problems for offenses. The Colts' lone game this year where they haven't scored, over 29 points in this year has come against the Los Angeles Rams when Jared Verse and Byron Young completely decimated the Colts offensive line. So if you want to beat this Colts offense, you got to get pressure up front. Getting a Khalil Mack would be huge for the Chargers, but if you don't have him and your run defense suffers and you're not able to rush the passer, this Colts offense that is averaging almost 33 points per game is going to be able to get theirs on that side of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it does feel like a game the Chargers are going to have to put up 30, like truly offensively. And I do think that you're right. It is a double-edged sword. Like, you get him back for that edge setting containment type of play, but you also get him as a pass rusher. And not only that, you could, for the first time this year, unleash your trio of pass rushers and have 3 guys you feel pretty good about after the Odafe Owe trade. You have Tuli Tuipulotu, now you have Odafe Owe. It's good to have those guys because you have 2 capable edge defenders. It's a lot different when Khalil Mack's back, and now you have a trio of guys that were, even if some guys, need a spell, have to get off the field for a few snaps, you have someone that's able to get in there and be able to hold the line and hold their end of the rope. And I think that pass rush wise, run defense wise, they're equally important because, that's the thing about the Colts. They're about middle of the pack as far as team pressure allowed. The difference has been, to your point, Daniel Jones being able to really limit how many of those pressures turn into sacks. And kind of an underrated storyline for the Chargers this year has been the inability to get those kind of quarterbacks on the ground. So I think that is a big one.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Vandy favored against a top 10 team for the first time since 1977. Corey, what is the reaction around Vanderbilt to just that alone?
It's very surreal, honestly. You're looking at a team that's just, when Clark Lee took over, it was like bottom of the barrel, like below the barrel, and he's built it up to this point to where we're legitimately talking about college football playoff. We're legitimately feeling like, hey, we can start to build some momentum, recruiting, NIL, transfer portal. Like, we might have a real program on our hands, and people are flocking to that, and the student tickets sold out in like minutes. I think the ticket allotment, obviously LSU travels really well,
but I think it's going to be less of a home road environment than it used to be. So it's starting to kind of take root a little bit, and fans are starting to really believe in Clark Lee. When 2 years ago, coming off that Tennessee game in November of 23, a month before I started Locked On Vandy, people were doubting whether or not he would be around even at the midpoint of the next season. So lot has changed, and it's very, very exciting. And there's a lot of excitement here in Nashville, seeing more Vanderbilt logos flying around downtown too.
Yeah. Corey, the last time Media Days was in Birmingham, I remember Clark Lee was at the main podium, and he said I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect of Vanderbilt being the best job in college football.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like chuckled under my breath. And it's like, hey, look, man, I get it. You went there. You love the place. It's your program. You need to build it up. But we can also be like realistically honest here. I don't know that Vanderbilt's the best program in college football, or if Clark Lee even believes that in his heart of hearts. But I think what he has proven is that with the right approach, you can win there. And I think what he and Barton have done building the roster with older players from lower levels who played a ton of football, they've got buy-in to what their system is, and they've recruited to it. It's done exceptionally well. There's probably no greater example of that than Diego Pavia. LSU got to see Pavia a year ago in Baton Rouge, and LSU managed that really well. How maybe different is Pavia from year one starter now halfway through year two as the starter at Vandy?
He is much more developed in the passing game. I mean, he has improved significantly there. I think the depth that's been built around him is significantly improved as well, and that might play a factor when you compare last year's game to this year's game, because when they played last year, Vandy had a ton of injuries. They were like, their depth just wasn't built up to make that run late in the season. They got trounced by South Carolina. They lost control of that LSU game where they came out, took a shot early, and played extremely well, and then just petered out. And then same with Tennessee. They got off to a hot start, but kind of just tuckered out because, the depth just couldn't hold up against the likes of LSU and Tennessee, who have been years and years and years of building elite depth. So that's kind of the main differences. He's developed in the areas in his passing game that were lacking last year, that also contributed to them not being able to finish out down the stretch in those last three games. So just all of that stuff is led to his development, and he's been working hard.
I think what's really interesting is LSU went in the transfer portal, and Brian Kelly even disclosed he spent $18 million in this roster. And it shows, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and in particular in the secondary. So I don't know that there's going to be a ton of plays to be made passing the ball for Vanderbilt. My real question in this game is LSU's run defense and their ability to be gap sound against a Vanderbilt team that wants to run the football and is really good at it. And something that your audience will probably be interested to know and is follow this availability report. Whit Weeks questionable, Bernard Gooden doubtful. LSU's already down Gabe Relaford, who's one of their four-man rotation at defensive ends, a really good player. He's out for the rest of the season with a shoulder injury. Mm-hmm. So the defensive front, one of the things LSU had going for it is tons of depth, both that they signed via the portal and then recruited and developed. And this is a game where that depth may be challenged a little bit by the lack of availability. So we'll see what that looks like come Saturday morning. But also, maybe you can expound a little bit on what makes Vanderbilt's running game so effective.
What makes it so effective is the movement pre-snap, the formational stuff that they do to try to get numbers advantages at the point of attack. They they put defenders in conflict. They force you to communicate across the board, and that makes things tough on defenses when, like, right before the snap, you're communicating, and even if you're a half step late on one of their counters, there's a run lane there. And also Pavia can pull it, he can option it, he can shovel it. Like, they have different things they can do off of it to where your linebackers, especially your backside edge guys, they really have to be patient before they go flying to the football. And I know LSU is a type of team that loves to fly the football and hit those momentum gaining tackles in the backfield and those big hits and things like that. Like, they take advantage of defenses that tend to over pursue. And that's where they kind of get their yards. And then once they kind of get going and the defense, whoever it is, gets put on their heels, that's when they have those I call them death marches, but those like 10 play, 12 play
Yeah.
drives that eat up 7-8 minutes of clock. So it's just that, just the eye candy you have in the backfield with the jet motions and the orbit motions and the orbit return motions where he comes downhill on a counter. Just the creativity of how they do pre-snap really puts defenses in a bind.
Yeah, Vanderbilt averaging 208 rush yards per game. That's 23rd in the country. So that's a really good rushing offense that finds itself in third and manageable a lot against an LSU defense that's got a ton of skill, but maybe a little limited personnel-wise going into this game. Is there any other player offensively, skill-wise, that LSU fans should know about going into this weekend?
Well, I mean, obviously the people involved in the run game, Cedric Alexander, MK Young, AJ Newberry, they have a good stable of running backs there. Trey Richardson is somebody who can get involved in the run game from the perimeter perspective. Junior Sherrill on RPOs, just Eli Stowers. Obviously, he's the pitch man sometimes on the option. He's the shovel guy. I mean, they're going to try to get him involved as much as possible there as well. So my question to you, Matt, is when you look across the ball and you see Harold Perkins, just a dynamic player, utility guy, Swiss Army knife. We have one in Randon Fontenette. How are they planning on using Perkins against Vanderbilt's offense? Like, what role is he going to play in disrupting Diego Pavia in this offense?
Yeah, Perkins plays the star role, which is sort of a nickel Sam kind of hybrid linebacker safety role. So he plays out in space, which is different from what they had tried to make him do the last couple of years and last year before his injury, which he was trying to play off the ball. And Harold Perkins isn't a Mike. He's not a guy that you want caught up in the wash with 300-pound linemen. You want him out in space, pursuing, defending the perimeter. I think it's a game where, and look, this is where Whit Weeks' availability is going to be critical, because Perkins and Weeks are likely going to be guys that are setting near the line of scrimmage, making sure Diego Pavia doesn't beat them with his feet. Mm-hmm. And Brian Kelly even said as much earlier this week. He's like, you have to turn him into a passer. And it's not to say that Pavia can't throw the football. It's just to say when Vanderbilt's offense is going, it's when they're running the ball effectively. Mm-hmm. If LSU can limit the running game and make Pavia throw against a very talented LSU secondary, it's a big advantage to LSU. So that's sort of the objective. And I think Perkins and Weeks in tandem are probably going to be tasked with that. But I think you're right. Eye discipline is going to be huge.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
You are Locked On Balls, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Boogie, it is one of those weeks, man. It's one of those weeks where when we think about football season, when we think about let's do a professional. Well, I'm going to do this for you because you say you're not a professional. No. When we do content planning for the season, Bama week circled. Like it's one of the biggest weeks of the year for us, people like me, but also Tennessee fan, East Tennessee boys. Third Saturday in October. This game, I say it on Brent's repeat all week long. This game means so much to so many people. Tell me why this game means so much to you.
The beautiful thing about it this year is it matters, right? For so many years, this has been a streaky rivalry. Philip Fulmer owned Alabama, and then we know 15 straight years of losing to Alabama. But now this matters. This is what you want. This is why you come to Tennessee, in the words of Philip Fulmer. This game on Saturday, not only is it the third Saturday in October, it's a rivalry game. It's Tennessee, it's Alabama. By the way, bring back the orange and the crimson. Let's do it. It ain't 1942 with black and white TVs. Let's put on the orange and let's put on the crimson and let's go play football. But it matters. A shot at an SEC championship, a shot at the college football playoff. It's all on the line. I've said all week long, the drive at the end of the Mississippi State game, Joey Aguilar punches it in, big boy drive, Braylon Staley making the play on third down, Chris Brazzell making the play on fourth down. Those are great moments. Nobody remembers you for what you did against Mississippi State. Nobody remembers you for what you did against Arkansas, but they're going to remember what you do against Alabama on Saturday night. Let's go down to Tuscaloosa. Coach Heupel said, we got on our buses. We got on our planes. A lot of people in the national media, a lot of people in this very fan base don't think we should even get on the bus. Let's get on the bus. Let's go down to Tuscaloosa and let's punch them in the mouth and let them know everything is on the line Saturday. This is what it's all about, man.
Boogie, I'm not calling you a liar. At least me. I know some people might, but I'm not calling you a liar. I've not seen any of that talk this week about don't even get on the bus. Because if that's true, and again, not calling you a liar, that's the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. Like, you want to talk about the best football team Josh Heupel's ever had to go down there and have a chance to win? It's this one. What are you talking about? Like, this is an offense that leads the nation in total yards. Anybody that says Tennessee doesn't have any business getting on the bus, that's probably the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard in my life.
Mark my words, Kaner. Saturday morning, college game day, when they make their picks, it's going to be all across the board. The national media, what are they talking about? Ty Simpson. They're talking about these Alabama wide receivers. But if they go deep enough and they get into the keys to the game, they're going to lay out step by step the keys to the game, and I guarantee you Tennessee has an advantage in the majority of those keys to the game. We should be getting on the bus. We should be getting on the planes, and we should go down there and punch them in the mouth. If this game's in Neyland Stadium, are you not 100% rolling with Tennessee?
Probably, given the recent history with Heupel playing at home, teams not named Georgia, he just finds a way to get it done, right? And I do believe the Neyland effect's a real thing. I agree with you about the game day set. I think they're all going to pick Tennessee. Maybe one's going to pick Tennessee just to be different. But I think all. I mean, obviously, all the talks about Alabama. It's a good football team, right? I mean, it's got a good quarterback playing very well. But what are your keys to win in this football game? You said let's get in the weeds here. What are your keys or how Tennessee can pull off this upset?
I think you keep it simple, stupid. What are the keys to most football games, right? Protect your quarterback, keep the quarterback clean, run the football, force turnovers, win the turnover battle. And when you look at the keys to the game, when you look at the layout of the game, all right, let's talk about rushing the football. Alabama has not been very good rushing the football, 126 yards a game. That's 101st in the country. Is Jam Miller going to play? As of the time of this recording, I don't think we know. Have we seen whether or not Jam Miller is going to play? If he doesn't, Ty Simpson is your leading rusher at Alabama. And spoiler alert, he's not going to run the football. He's not a running quarterback. All right, so let's talk about keeping – I sounded like Jeremy Pruitt right there. All right, let's talk about keeping the quarterback clean, right? Alabama, 89th in the country in sacks allowed. They are not very good at protecting Ty Simpson. Now, Tennessee leading the country in sacks per game. Josh Josephs, Tyree West, Don Bailey, Caleb Herring, pin your ears back and get after the quarterback. It's going to be interesting to me to see how Tim Banks attacks Alabama. On the flip side of that, Alabama, 99th in the country at getting home. And Tennessee's been extremely good protecting Joey Aguilar and then forcing turnovers. That's the key for me. Can they force Ty Simpson to make a mistake? Because to this point, he's not been turning the football over. Even though teams have got pressure on him, teams have hit him, teams have got him to the ground, Ty Simpson has thrown one interception on the season. That's a big key to me. Can Tennessee force turnovers? And if they do, you better score. You can't do like you did a week ago. You can't go 3 and out twice after a turnover. You have to get into the end zone. I think it was Josh Pate talking about keys to the game. Give Joey Aguilar some extra bullets in the chamber. Give him an opportunity. We force turnovers all year. Will they continue to do it? I think that's a big part of Saturday.
Well, before I get into it, when you say right, that is Jeremy Pruitt. And I'll do the same thing too. I'll be like, da-da-da-da. I'll be like, I'm preaching to the pulpit, and I'll be like, right. And I'm like, oh, God, that is what Jeremy Pruitt did. He said,
I feel like I'm coaching little kids. I coach kindergartners. I'm like, do you understand? Like, I say something. Do you understand? You got to make sure they're listening. You got to make sure they're processing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right.
I've just come to the fact that Tennessee is going to give and defense. Tennessee's going to give, and Tennessee's going to go and create some takeaways. Like that is what my expectation is every single game. So I expect Tennessee to get after Ty Simpson. I expect Tennessee to force a turnover or two, even though, as you pointed out, Alabama's been so protective of the football, right? And that's one of the reasons why they're so good. They just don't make mistakes, whereas you don't have to be elite on the stat sheet. They do a couple of things that are approaching elite, but overall on the stat sheet, they don't do many things that are elite. They're just a good football team that makes no mistakes, and that's, give them a lot of credit. So I've reserved to the fact that like Tennessee's going to get after Simpson. Tennessee's going to create a couple turnovers, but Tennessee's done that in every game, and you've still had to go to overtime, or you've still held on to win the fourth quarter. So to me, it's almost like Boogie, and I cannot believe it. I'm like, I said this a lot after the Arkansas win, right? Like, the offense didn't play bad, but boy, they left so much meat on the bone, man. If the offense could have took advantage of those takeaways, it could have been a blowout, all that type of stuff. It's like, since we are kind of who we are defensively, at least what you're thinking, like, offense just got to take off. So I'm looking at the offense again. Like we know what's going on here. It's up to you guys to go win this football game, and that makes me feel better. Like, maybe I'm just talking in circles here, Boogie, but kind of follow me here. That makes me feel better, because if it's up to the offense to go and create some things, go and score when you got to score, take advantage of a turnover, like, I will ride with Tennessee's offense that's number one in the country right now, number one in the SEC, any day. I'll ride with Tennessee's offense any day, because I know what to expect from Tennessee's defense. There's going to be some good. There's going to be some bad. To me, it's still going back to the offense. Got to outscore them. Got to go win. And I don't know. It makes me feel good about it. I'm not saying Tennessee's going to win this game. I'm just saying, like, I'll ride with Tennessee's offense because I trust Tennessee's offense.
Yeah, who doesn't, right? Who doesn't? And I brought this up the other day because a big conversation, a big talking point has been Josh Heupel not being aggressive, right? End of the game, if you pick up a couple of first downs, the ball game's over, put your foot on their throat and do what you do. Now, the debate is, has Josh Heupel, can I say, lost his balls on Locked On Vols? Man, I'm a poet and didn't know it. I just did, so I guess we're going to roll with it. Has Josh Heupel lost his balls? I don't think so. I don't think, like, why do we see Petrino go out there and coach aggressive? Why do we see UAB's coach go out and coach aggressive? Because they know Tennessee has the better talent. And I think we started to see this with Josh Heupel last year in the Oklahoma game. It's like, why is he not being aggressive? Well, I think he knew he had a pretty dang good defense, and he could turn it over to them, and they would get a stop. Now, it got you bit. It got you bit at Arkansas, and I think it's the same thing this year. I think Josh Heupel understands that he has more talent, more bodies, more Jimmies and Joes, so he doesn't necessarily have to go out there and be aggressive. Now, on the flip side of that, I agree with people that are saying he's been too conservative. Why? Because of what you just said. If the game's on the line, and we can either go score points and make it a 2-score game or a 3-score game and wrap this thing up, do you trust the offense to do that? Or do you trust the defense to go out and get a stop? Now, I know they've been good and bad, Jekyll and Hyde on defense. But if it's up to me and I can put the ball in somebody's hand, I'm going to put it in the hands of Joey Aguilar. I'm not going to go out there and run the football 8 straight times and try to chew clock. I'm going to go let Joey do what he does. Josh Heupel's winning. He's winning. It's hard to question you when you're winning.
Counterpoint to that, and we won't spend a lot of time on this because this is last week's news. See, I'm on the opposite end of that. Like, I don't have an issue with kind of what he did in the fourth quarter there. I mean, you enter the fourth quarter with a 17-point lead. 17-point lead. You play the majority of the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. The at least the play, I don't agree with a lot of the people. Like, the play everybody gets mad about, it's a punt, or the punt from like the 46, 47, whatever it is. Like, it was 3rd and 3. If Star Thomas runs the play that's called, it's a first down. And then you chew 3 or 4 minutes left. That you don't punt it back and they don't march it down and score again. Like, the whole narrative changes right there. It's 3rd and 3, and Star Thomas cuts it back when he shouldn't have, and there's nowhere to go. And Tennessee's like, okay, well, I'm going to punt there. I think punting there is still the right call. You're up 10, playing at home. You've also, in the fourth quarter, why not run the football? You already have over 200 yards rushing in the football game against a crap defense. So I'm kind of on the opposite end there. I mean, I hear you. Like, I don't think Josh Heupel's lost his, as you would phrase it, balls. I don't think he's done that. I just think it's the evolution there. And so, again, that's just kind of my 2 cents on that.